Okay, so we're picking back up with part 2 of my story. If you've been following along, if not, you can go back to my previous videos. Anywho, this part picks up when I was around 4 or 5 years old. I remember being terrified of thunderstorms. Every time it thundered, I would cry and cry until my mom called my favorite relatives to calm me down. This was literally a thing. Every thunderstorm, this is what we had to do. I would freak out and cry. She would get on the phone and call my favorite people, and eventually the storm would pass and I would be okay. Anyway, one night during the storm, my mom tried something different. She sat me down with my older brother and sister and began reading the Bible to us. She got to the part about the disciples, and I started to look at her confused because I didn't know what that word meant. I didn't know what disciples meant. And she told me that they were Jesus's friends. That's how she described it to me in a way that I would understand. As soon as she said they were Jesus's friends, it's like I lit up. I automatically knew what it was. I was excited and I began to naming all 12 of the disciples, y'all. I can't even do that right now. I can try. I can probably get a few of them, but I won't even embarrass myself. But either way it go, I was like 4 or 5 naming all 12 disciples. And then I told her, I know them. I said, I know them because I walked with them before. In that moment, y'all, my mama, my brother, my sister, they all ran out the house across to the neighbor. My mom was good friends with the neighbor across the street, and they left me in the house sitting there confused. I was just like, what just happened? We was all just reading the Bible together, everything good. We talking about Jesus and his homies, and now everybody left. So I was clearly confused about what was going on. Anywho, once my mom made it across the street to the neighbor house, she called my granny, who was a super spiritual woman. Now, back then, I would have described my granny as religious, but knowing what I know now, I'm going to use the term spiritual. Anywho, my mama called my granny, and granny called her church member known as Sister Graham. She was a well-respected prophet in the community back then. Sister Graham got on the phone, and after she heard everything that happened, my mom and my granny had explained to her how everything went down. She told my mama to dress me in white for 3 Sundays in a row. And she told my mom, her exact words was, that child is going to ring down the bells of Jordan. And to this day, I don't know what that means. I'm still curious about it. But I know my mama listened. I know for the following 3 Sundays that I was wearing white head to toe. So even though I'm still curious about that now, as an adult, I've come to an understanding that her telling them to dress me in white for 3 Sundays in a row, that was a soft ritual. It was just hidden within the Baptist practice. It was a quiet way of acknowledging something sacred about what I was experiencing that words couldn't explain, but they knew that they had to activate something. It was some sort of activation point, and I'm unpacking all of that still. But it's just how it was a trip to me when I was doing my shadow work. How many things popped out that in religious culture, they will tell you, oh, this is witchcraft, this is bad, this is devil worship, or whatever they want to call it. But it's so much deeper than that. And they try to make it scary and like something you're not supposed to be dabbling with. But what's natural is what's natural, But I won't go off on that tangent right now. That's for a later post. But anywho, back to my story, right? So after I wore white for those 3 Sundays in a row, things started to kind of calm down. But I do remember before that, long before that night where the storm happened, my gifts was already like popping up in and out. So at around 4, I remember I would play out in our front yard by myself, talking to my Auntie Sammie, who had just passed away. I would be out there laughing and talking with her, calling her by her name, like she was still there, like having full-on conversations, giggling, having a grand old time. And I didn't think nothing of it. It was just like, that's what it was for me. Until my mom and siblings, like, kind of started acting kind of scared about me. And they would talk about it like they was telling a scary story. So when I would hear my mom tell other people about it, I was like, oh, she talking about me, and okay, their reaction is strange, so maybe that's not normal. However kids process stuff, you take information in and you learn how to react, so that's what it was. So eventually, after, watching how other people reacted to me, that taught me to start hiding parts of myself. So much so that I eventually lost my ability to connect the way that I once had. And it took me a long time to try to get that back, But what I learned as an adult is that people react differently to your gifts. Some respond with fear, some respond with awe, and sometimes they just don't know what to do with it. And I think that's what the case was with my mom. I think she probably just didn't know what to do with it. But what I will say is today I honor the little girl who was terrified of storms, but spoke truths far, far beyond her years. I honor her gifts. I honor her sensitivities. And I honor the woman she grew into. The one who now chooses to stand fully in her gifts. For a long time, I thought I lost that little girl who laughed with her aunt and named the disciples. But she was always there. She was waiting to be seen. So now I speak to her, reminding her that she is safe, she is loved, and her gifts are sacred. And if you can relate to any part of this, feeling unseen, unheard as a child, or even now as an adult, I leave you with these affirmations. And feel free to also check out my inner child meditation along with other meditations on my YouTube channel, Divinely Guided by Cosmic Harmony, Candles, and more. So let's get into these affirmations. My gifts are sacred. I am safe to be who I am. My sensitivity is not a weakness. It is wisdom. Not everyone will understand my gifts, but they are still mine. Save this post for the days you need a reminder that your gifts are sacred, even when others don't understand them. And always remember that your story is your power and your healing is your purpose. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. I'll be uploading more videos soon to continue telling my story. Thank you and have a good one.